General Hospital spoilers reveal that Sidwell's descent into darkness has reached a critical and horrifying threshold, one that no longer operates within the boundaries of logic or restraint. As his plans to overtake Sonny's influence in Port Charles unravel and his proposals are repeatedly rejected, something far more volatile awakens within him, a primal need to assert power. To inflict fear, and to dismantle Sonny Corinthos in the most devastating way imaginable. It is no longer about business leverage or strategic expansion. Sidwell has evolved into a man consumed by obsession, and the fuel behind that obsession is Sonny's defiance. Every failed negotiation, every show of strength from Sonny, pushes Sidwell further into a psychological tailspin, and now the targets of his rage have shifted from the man himself to those Sonny holds dearest, his children. Sidwell's inability to accept rejection has bred a terrifying form of tunnel vision. He doesn't just want to defeat Sonny, he wants to ruin him, hollow him out from the inside. And bring him to his knees in a way no rival has ever done before. And what better way to do that than to strike at the heart of Sonny's world? Christina, Dante, Michael, Avery, Donna, none of them are off limits. In Sidwell's deranged mind, they are pawns in a symbolic war, vulnerable conduits through which he can make Sonny suffer beyond comprehension. This is no longer a calculated campaign, it's a crusade, an emotional bloodletting masked as strategic warfare, and the fallout threatens to engulf every corner of Sonny's extended family. Behind closed doors, Sidwell studies their movements, examines their routines, gathers information through high-tech surveillance and rogue agents. His obsession has become so deep that he has built psychological profiles on each of Sonny's children, mapping out their fears, their weaknesses, their relationships, even the places they feel safest. This grotesque form of intelligence gathering reveals not just his tactical preparation, but the extent of his fixation. Sidwell is no longer operating like a criminal mastermind, he is acting like a predator with nothing left to lose. And that makes him far more dangerous than any organized adversary Sonny has ever faced. The town of Port Charles itself is starting to feel the tremors. There are whispers in back alleys and late-night calls to warn the Corinthos family that something is coming, something worse than gunfire or extortion. Sonny's allies are becoming restless. His enemies emboldened, and his loved ones increasingly exposed. Jason is watching closely, his instincts screaming that Sidwell is on the brink of unleashing something catastrophic. Carly, even amid her own crisis, senses the darkness looming, and Michael, already scarred from past attacks, grows more protective of his children and his vulnerable family. But it's Christina who finds herself most immediately in danger. Her growing public role and activism have placed her under the spotlight, making her a highly visible and emotionally impactful target. Sidwell's people have followed her movements for weeks, documenting every visit to the youth center, every dinner at Charlie's, every night spent at the Corinthos compound. There is talk that Sidwell may not merely observe her, he may act. Whether it's a kidnapping, a staged accident, or worse, the threat is real, and it is imminent. At the same time, Dante's position in law enforcement has earned him a different kind of attention. Sidwell doesn't just see him as a son, he sees him as a threat to be neutralized and an opportunity to send a brutal message. A failed hit on Dante could ripple through the police department, challenge Sonny's alliances, and ignite a full-scale street war. And then there's Donna and Avery, the youngest and most innocent, shielded only by their family's constant vigilance. If Sidwell dares to target them, the consequences would be unthinkable, plunging Sonny into a spiral of violence from which even he may never return. What's most terrifying about Sidwell's unraveling is the fact that no one can predict just how far he is willing to go. The rules no longer apply. The lines have all been crossed. There is a sense of inevitability in the air, as if Port Charles is waiting for the spark to ignite the explosion that everyone knows is coming. Sidwell doesn't want peace. He doesn't want power. He wants devastation. He wants to watch Sonny lose everything, not in one swift blow, but piece by agonizing piece, beginning with the children he cherishes most. This obsession with control, this refusal to accept defeat, is what makes Sidwell the most dangerous man Sonny has ever faced. He doesn't operate within a code. He doesn't fear consequence. He doesn't believe in collateral damage. And now, with every passing hour, the Corinthos children are becoming more than just pawns. They are trophies, reminders of Sidwell's rage. And the epicenter of the psychological warfare he intends to unleash. The town may not be ready. Sonny may not be ready. But Sidwell is. And the reckoning he's preparing is one that will haunt Port Charles forever. Sidwell's vendetta had always been dangerous, but what was once political, calculated, and territorial has mutated into something personal and profoundly unsettling. No longer driven by power or ambition alone, Sidwell has shifted his gaze toward psychological annihilation. His rage no longer focused solely on Sonny but on the essence of what keeps Sonny alive, his family. And in this latest chapter of his descent into obsession, the target isn't Sonny's empire or business dealings. It's Donna and Avery. Two innocent children. Two daughters. Two names Sidwell has uttered under his breath not as people, but as pawns. To Sidwell, they are Sonny's weakness personified, and in exploiting them, he intends to dismantle the legacy that Sonny has spent a lifetime building. What makes this act especially terrifying is the fact that Sidwell no longer seems to care about consequences. He has moved beyond transactional threats. What he wants is fear, chaos, and retribution masked as psychological warfare. He has gathered resources from every corner of the dark web and beyond, rogue spies, ex-WBS operatives, private mercenaries with no allegiance to law or nation, and has created a network that watches the Corinthos family like predators circling prey. Sidwell's orders are precise. Track the girls. Document patterns. Find the loopholes in Sonny's fortress. And exploit them. Donna's daycare routine has already been mapped. Avery's playdates are known, timed, and charted against Sonny's movements. The security cameras around the estate have been hacked and overridden, creating dead zones that Sidwell's team uses to get closer, undetected. To the average eye, these are just glitches in technology. To Sidwell, they are cracks in the foundation of safety that he plans to tear apart. But the horror doesn't end with surveillance. What began as watching has turned into presence. Sidwell wants Sonny to feel it. The scent of perfume left behind in Donna's backpack that no one in the family wears. A toy placed in the yard that Avery doesn't own. A child's drawing of their house found crumpled in the mailbox with one figure ominously crossed out. It's as if Sidwell has weaponized innocence. As if he wants Sonny to feel that every smile from his daughters could be the last. Carly, though deeply entangled in her own legal battles, senses the shift. She feels it in the way Donna clings tighter at bedtime, in the way Avery flinches at the sound of car doors slamming. Carly may not be on speaking terms with everyone in the Corinthos circle. But there's one truth she knows better than anyone: when Sonny's children are threatened, the world will burn. Jason feels it too. He doesn't sleep anymore. His instincts are on fire. He rechecks the security logs, deploys additional guards, and moves silently from room to room at night ensuring nothing is amiss. His mind replays scenarios of ambushes, abductions, poison playsets, rigged school buses. It isn't paranoia. It's preparedness. Because he knows that Sidwell isn't bluffing. He's escalating. Michael, racked with guilt over his recent absence and preoccupied with rebuilding his bond with his children, finds himself spiraling into a state of dread. He doesn't speak of it. But it shows in the way he checks his phone every minute, the way he studies old baby monitors, the way he stares at his daughters like memorizing every detail in case the unthinkable happens. Christina, though more composed, internalizes it differently. She cancels all her gigs, insists on helping with pickups and drop-offs, memorizes the escape routes of every home in the Corinthos orbit. She becomes a silent sentinel, a protector not out of duty, but out of terror. Sidwell, meanwhile, thrives in the shadows. He doesn't need to appear. His message is received. A small drone spotted over Donna's preschool playground disappears before it can be intercepted. An anonymous flower delivery arrives at Sonny's compound with a message tucked into the petals. I know where they sleep. Panic ripples through the town. Not in mass hysteria, but in whispered conversations, tightened grips, eyes that search every alleyway twice. Ava demands answers but receives only silence. She senses the storm coming and tightens her circle around Avery, but she knows that if Sidwell wants in, he'll find a way. Olivia offers the Quartermain estate as a safe house. Drew proposes a joint effort between ELQ security and law enforcement. None of it feels like enough. And then the worst happens. A breach. A masked figure spotted scaling the outer wall of the estate during a blackout. The alarm fails. A guard is knocked unconscious. A single photograph is left behind, taped to Avery's bedroom door. It's a photo of Sonny holding her as a baby. And on the back, scrawled in red, "Next time, I take what's mine." Sonny's fury is volcanic. But it's not the rage that overtakes him, it's the fear. The knowledge that no matter how rich, powerful, or prepared he is, the war has reached his doorstep. He doesn't want to retreat, but he can no longer pretend that Port Charles is safe. He sends Donna and Avery away, under assumed names, to a location only Jason and a federal marshal know. He doesn't tell Carly, doesn't tell Michael, doesn't even trust Nina. The fewer who know, the better. Meanwhile, Sidwell releases a message through encrypted channels. A video. It's not violent. It's worse. It's Donna coloring. Avery humming a lullaby. Footage clearly taken from inside their home. The message reads only, "I can always see them." Sonny collapses. Not physically, but emotionally. For the first time in decades, he feels truly powerless. His family is fragmented. His peace is shattered. His legacy is in jeopardy. And Sidwell is just getting started. Port Charles begins to change. The community no longer feels like home but like a battleground. Spencer volunteers to escort children to school. Brooke Lynn stops rehearsing. Willow pulls her kids from summer camp. Sasha, recovering from her own trauma, volunteers to assist Carly. Even Finn, detached from mob politics, offers emergency medical readiness. The town pulls together not because they love Sonny, but because they fear what happens when chaos wins. But through it all, the question lingers, how far will Sidwell go? He's dismantling lives with a smile, destabilizing an empire with photographs, notes, and shadows. And if no one stops him soon, the next phase might not be symbolic. It might be final. As the days pass, the Corinthos compound becomes a fortress. But a fortress doesn't protect the heart. And Sonny, for all his armor, is bleeding inside. Because nothing breaks a man like fearing the moment he hears his daughter's laugh may be her last. Nothing erases hope like a lullaby played under the sound of drone wings. And nothing fuels a monster like the belief that he has already won. Sidwell has crossed the line. He no longer wants control. He wants devastation. And in Port Charles, that war has already begun. Sidwell's descent into psychological warfare has taken a dark and destructive turn as he expands his vendetta to include not just Sonny's children, but Daisy, a child who already carries within her the fractured legacy of 3 women who have fought, loved, and suffered for her in different ways. In choosing Daisy as his next target, Sidwell has triggered a devastating ripple effect across Port Charles, pulling Carly, Ava, and Sasha into a spiral of guilt, helplessness, and fear. What he is doing is not merely an attack on Sonny's family, but a calculated effort to destroy the fragile web of maternal identity, love, and redemption that holds Daisy's young life together. Daisy, already struggling to define where she belongs in a world where 3 different women call themselves her mother in heart or blood, now faces an invisible enemy. Sidwell does not need to lay a finger on her to wound her permanently. He manipulates shadows, whispers, and half-truths. He leaves breadcrumbs of terror, an old toy from Carly's attic left outside Sasha's apartment door, a photo of Daisy and Ava at the pier mysteriously mailed to Carly. A piece of Sasha's handwriting, words from a forgotten birthday card, taped inside Daisy's school locker. The message is clear: Sidwell sees everything. And worse. He knows how to strike where it will hurt the most. For Carly, who has lost custody battles and watched the family she once led with ferocity splinter in her absence. The renewed threat on Daisy feels like an indictment of all her recent failures. She's already consumed with guilt for not being able to protect her biological daughter. The idea that Daisy might now fall prey to Sidwell's obsessions because of her connection to Carly is unbearable. Ava, on the other hand, who has been the most consistent maternal figure in Daisy's life, feels the ghost of past mistakes whispering in her ear. The people of Port Charles remember Ava's own entanglements with dangerous men, and now she fears that her sins have come back not for her, but for Daisy. Meanwhile, Sasha, who found new meaning and maternal instinct through her bond with Daisy after losing her own child, begins to spiral into a panic. She is terrified that history is about to repeat itself and that this time, she will not survive the loss. All three women love Daisy fiercely. But that very love has created a fracture, each pulling her in a different emotional direction. And Sidwell is exploiting it masterfully. He sends an anonymous tip to Daisy's school suggesting she may be in danger from within her own family. A call to Child Protective Services follows. The school counselor, unfamiliar with the complexity of Daisy's upbringing, becomes alarmed. Daisy is pulled into a series of uncomfortable interviews. The result is confusion and fear that quickly metastasizes into a silent rage in the child. "Why do I have 3 mothers and still feel like I have none?" she writes in a private diary that Sidwell somehow manages to intercept and leak portions of to the press. The media storm is brutal. Headlines like, "Who is Daisy's real mother? The town can't decide. But a killer might," fill tabloids and online threads. Port Charles becomes a city of hushed conversations and sideways glances. Carly can't show her face without accusations. Ava's gallery suffers from boycotts. Sasha is approached by reporters mid-run, asking if her history of mental instability makes her unfit to be a parent figure. And while the town dissects the maternal roles these women play, Sidwell watches gleefully from the shadows, knowing he has turned the child into a symbol of conflict rather than a source of healing. Daisy retreats. She no longer trusts any of them. Her once bubbly laugh becomes silent. She stops painting, drawing, eating with her hands like she used to. She refuses hugs, flinches at noise, and sleeps with her lights on. The trio of women, each desperate to reclaim her affection, can only watch helplessly as she drifts into emotional exile. Sidwell has succeeded in turning a child's world into a battlefield. But he's not finished. On what should have been a simple birthday celebration for Daisy, a quiet picnic meant to be free from reporters and security guards, a drone flies overhead. It hovers just long enough to drop a small gift-wrapped box near the birthday cake. Inside is a video device containing footage from hidden cameras placed in Daisy's classroom, her bedroom, and even in the park where she plays. A final message plays: "You never protected her. You never will." There is no signature, but no one doubts who sent it. That single act detonates what remains of Daisy's world. Carly demands the FBI. Ava collapses in panic. Sasha tries to hold Daisy, but the girl screams and runs. The video is broadcast on late-night news. CPS returns. Port Charles becomes a town on fire, alarmed, angry, ashamed. Sidwell has done the unthinkable. He has taken an innocent child and made her a pawn in a game of emotional warfare. Worse, he has robbed her of safety, trust, and identity. No matter how this war ends, Daisy has already lost pieces of herself she will never recover. And the town? It watches in horror, knowing that even if Sonny retaliates with full force, even if Carly, Ava, and Sasha unite for once in true solidarity, even if Sidwell is brought down in handcuffs, none of it will undo the damage inflicted on a child torn in 3. Because this is no longer about revenge or territory. This is about a child's soul. And Sidwell, in his madness, has set it ablaze. The uneasy stillness that had once settled over Port Charles has now been shattered. Sonny, Michael, and Jason, each bearing the weight of loss, betrayal, and burning loyalty, are now fully aligned and preparing for a war unlike any they have faced before. The chaos surrounding Daisy, the relentless psychological assaults on Donna and Avery, and the unnerving precision of Sidwell's calculated attacks have forced the Corinthos family into a dangerous, irreversible posture. No more defense, only offense. The city may not be ready, but the battle lines have already been drawn. This is no longer a matter of territorial disputes or business clashes. Sidwell's obsession has evolved into a campaign of terror targeting children, legacy, and identity. And now, Sonny knows there's only one way forward, to eliminate the threat at its root. Michael, once divided in his loyalties, is now fully committed, especially after witnessing the trauma inflicted on Daisy. Jason, ever the enforcer and silent protector, has returned to his most lethal mindset, willing to dismantle every asset, every contact, and every hiding place Sidwell thought was secure. The trio, fractured in the past, now moves like a single, unstoppable force. This alliance is a seismic shift, a new adjustment in the power structure of Port Charles. And it's one that carries both strategic brilliance and emotional fury. Sonny's reputation has always been built on power and fear, but now it's driven by raw, paternal rage. Michael, once hesitant to embrace the criminal legacy of his father, has now crossed a line. His daughter has been violated, emotionally weaponized, and his family used as pawns. For Michael, this isn't business. This is vengeance wrapped in fatherhood. And Jason, ever the loyal soldier, has seen enough to know that Sidwell is more than a threat. He's a virus that will destroy everything they've fought to protect unless purged. What's unfolding is a war of shadow and flame. Private compounds are secured with tripwires and drone patrols. Satellite surveillance monitors every road leading in and out of Port Charles. Bank accounts tied to Sidwell's shell companies are frozen, and his offshore allies find themselves suddenly cut off, hunted down by Sonny's old European contacts. Every ally Sidwell once trusted begins to question their loyalty as one by one, they're picked apart, silently, strategically, without warning. But Sidwell doesn't retreat. He escalates. The final warning is delivered with cruel precision, a small box sent to Sonny's office, containing a baby monitor that had been stolen from Donna's room. Sonny stares at the device, hearing static. Then a brief sound, a faint voice, possibly Sidwell's, whispering, "You will never be safe again." That's the moment everything shifts. Sonny doesn't blink. He calls Michael and Jason into a meeting with Dante, who, though caught between his badge and his blood, chooses to stay silent. They draw up a new plan, not just to neutralize Sidwell, but to end him. For good. Port Charles is on the edge. The underworld senses it. Ava feels the shift in the air and tightens Daisy's security. Sasha clutches her daughter's drawings with shaking hands. Carly, though legally trapped, begins feeding information from behind bars. Even Spencer, watching from afar, knows that something has snapped in Sonny, a side of him not seen since the original Zakra Wars. This isn't a Cold War anymore. This is fire. The adjustments are being made rapidly. And with every step, a new shockwave hits. And the message is clear, Sidwell made it personal. Now Sonny, Michael, and Jason are prepared to make it final. And the city will never be the same.